Welcome everybody, this is the OXG recap. Today is March 9th, 2022. This is covering this week's DFK AMA, which was the game design, I believe. I think they have game mechanics, business development, and or creative department, I think, creative design. So that it was the creative department's week this week. So with that being said, I wasn't going to do a specific recap just for the AMA, but kind of what has happened since the AMA, kind of the last 24, 48 hours, has been a lot of community craziness. So I thought it was going to be important for us as a guild and as community members and players of DFK to kind of figure out what was going on and kind of touch base and see what it is. So I want to set the stage and then we'll get into it. So, all of January, in January, we hit all-time highs of Joule, right? $22 something. Also, the entire month of January, there were several snapshots going on. And the DFK team has been really good in the past about kind of creating these catalysts and creating these incentives to kind of always keep new exciting stuff kind of around the corner and just kind of keeping that price action in Joule exciting and whatever else. And there were really explicit snapshots for the crystal rewards, and also tucked in there was one secret snapshot. And they explicitly stated that the rewards for the secret snapshot wouldn't be disclosed until once it was all given. And so that was that. So everyone kind of had their eyes on the prize of like the crystal airdrop rewards, which were explicitly kind of like had the details with, and then kind of tucked with that was the secret snapshot that we didn't know the rewards for. And then there's been a bit of delay with the rewarding the airdrops, or at least coming to fruition with the airdrops. So, it was a little bit of out of sight, out of mind. So what then happened was right before the AMA happened, the Perilous Journey started. So all the heroes that were sent off, it was about 40,000 something, I think was the final tally of heroes that were sent to the Perilous Journey. And so now that's like a 10-day long quest that those heroes are gone for. That took place right as the AMA started. And then the secret snapshot rewards were given kind of as the AMA started as well. And then it was this kind of mild creative department AMA, kind of business as usual. Now, I want to say my 2 cents before I go further. I think everything that went down, I think could have been totally avoided by one little change. With the creative department, because it's not like, it could be concept art. It could be all this kind of future outlook stuff. And so they kept the focus on Crystalvale. And I really think that if they, all this speculation on PvP and the upcoming combat and what is it going to be? Because no one knows the details and people are hungry. The community is hungry for details for PvP. And I think if they were able to show off a little bit of the future combat graphics, what that could have looked like from the creative department side, the upcoming armor, shields, whatever, even if it wasn't ready, I think just something to kind of these little enticing catalysts to keep people excited and hyped up about things, coming up. But they kept the focus on Crystalvale. The Perilous Journey happened, and then the AMA ended, and the community went crazy because I think the secret quote-unquote rewards were extremely lackluster up and down the line. I'm not even going to get into if it was for, favorable to whales or less favorable to non-whales. I think up and down the line, it was horrible. I mean, I think the top wallet holder was 600,000 Exjewel, and they got 2,500 gold. I mean, I think that's worth like 3 Joule. So the problem, I think, overall was that Frisky Fox has always said historically was that Exjewel holders would be the most rewarded out of all the different snapshot iterations. So whether you were in the bank, whether you were in the gardens, whether you held heroes, whether you were leveling up heroes, holding in the bank, they've explicitly, and I would say overly stated, that that would be the greatest return for the rewards. And so there were a lot of players that had worked or saved or chose to save up to 100x Joule. And this was also, mind you, when Joule was less expensive, you needed more X Joule to qualify for the rewards. And so because Joule was more expensive, they had lowered the tiers or the entry levels to get into the rewards. And so now you had a lot of first-time players or first-time investors that had the 100x Joule quota or 200x Joule and all these things. And to see them get like no potions and literally just like, I think it was like 30 or 80 and 60 gold. I mean, just laughable amounts. It's almost like you'd rather not have that. It's like, don't even set us up for big expectations and disappointment. And so I think there was just, I don't know, it really seemed like a half-cocked plan. And they'd been so historically good in incentivizing people and doing things. So I can't tell what happened. There's one theory that, Frisky Fox is really in control of all of the rewards, and that this was almost like, because it wasn't a priority, it was almost like a rushed thing. Because what happened as soon as the community kind of went crazy was that he kind of doubled back. He took a step back and doubled down on the rewards. So he 2x'd the rewards for everybody, like immediately after the very loud reaction from the community at large that was really vocal and disappointed in the snapshot. Yeah, so just a lot of controversy that I feel it could have been avoided, and it was just, and it was also just like this point where everything kind of came together. So the perilous journey went underway. It was the all-time low after the all-time high, was the same day. And then the lackluster snapshot rewards, it just, there was a lot of things that kind of hit that boiling point almost. So that was that. Does anyone have, their 2 cents on kind of how that all went down before we move forward?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think what was disappointing for people was the goose egg, right? You say that the 100x Joules like the minimum entry point, and then you get 25 gold, okay, um, which is what I got. And then I look at these other things like the potions and the lesser atonement crystals, stones or whatever, and they're zeros, right? So I mean, personally, I was pretty disappointed with that, right? Like there needs to be like a minimum, right? Like a minimally acceptable type of return. But I don't know that people noticed or maybe overlooked, those Gen Zero raffle tickets at the end there. So I thought that was pretty much worth it for me, at least, just a free raffle ticket, because I'm thinking about all these heroes I just sent out and their value, you know, for some raffle tickets at a Gen Zero. But anyway, yeah. But I do like how they came back and answered to the community and kind of set those baseline rewards for everyone just to make up for that, because they realized real quickly that they had done something wrong.
Yeah, it's this is Starlex. It's hard for me to imagine, like you said, the top wall having so much Exjewel and then getting 2,500 gold. It's like it would be like if you like were playing the McDonald's Monopoly game and you won a single French fry. Like that's what it came down to for me, is like literally what good does this amount of gold even do? There's something about airdrops, I think, in general that are like really valuable just in terms of like the magic of getting something valuable in your wallet out of nowhere. And this completely takes that away. It's like I got something, but it's like almost less than nothing.
And that's the thing, right? I mean, imagine when Frisky Fox goes, as I've said, X Joule holders are going to be the most rewarded. You're only going to need 100 X Joule to qualify. I mean, who's going to listen to that again? Who's going to go, "Oh, I'm not getting smoked out by holding 100 X Joule in the bank this time. I'm going to put it in the gardens, or I'm going to summon and get a big, a positive expected value on my summon." And I mean, one of the greatest parts about DeFi Kingdoms as a game, as a play to earn game, is that there is so many different avenues you can take as a player, as a strategy, as an investor, to play, to make money, to get a return on your investment. And one of the DFK team means well when they, of course, they mean well when they're doing these airdrop snapshots. I mean, it's only to benefit the community, but I think there's something to be said about the execution and the intention, because like you said, I mean, they literally scaled it down to, I think, the smallest earners, or those who were at the bottom of the tier that still qualified. I think they earned something like three gold or something. I mean, it's laughable that they scaled it down to that level. It's almost like, just don't give me the 3 gold, actually. You know what I mean? It's like, just avoid it. Like, avoid the disaster.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, especially with those other rewards, like getting 0, right? That's almost an insult.
So next on the list, I guess topic number 2, the overall topic is the announcements that came that preceded the day after the perilous journey, right? So immediately following, even here on the page, I'll go to the AMA recap. Frisky Fox stated that start of the week, and it's a big week. We have some exciting announcements for later in the week, and it kind of goes on. And so we now know some of those updates or some of those announcements that they had later in the week. So update number 1, which I think I'll play for us real quick, was this. They launched the Crystalvale launch date, right? So March 31st or March 30th, I believe, March 30th. So end of Q1. And just for the record, they announced the Crystalvale launch, if anyone remembers, on New Year's Day, I believe. So on January 1st, 2022, they made the big announcement, and they have now come and said that March 30th at the end of Q1, staying to their roadmap, they are going to be doing the launch. So I'll play for us real quick just this quick 60-second trailer here. Happy Bloater is always my favorite part right there at the end. Gotta love it. So yeah, that's the big hype trailer. So we went from a day of complete FUD to the next 24 hours was like back to original euphoria that we've like known the community to have with such a successful project so far. So it was really quite a runaround of emotions, a mixed bag of emotions for the last few days. So when they did the announcement, they announced a Medium article that kind of introduced how this is going to run down. So this was the big, like, finally we got like some of these big details. So before we get into this, I kind of wanted to show the Avalanche breakdown from like an architecture standpoint as a blockchain. So they have a unique infrastructure, and the way that they do this is they have 3 different chains that all kind of make the main blockchain. And part of the way the architecture is designed is that the main blockchain can create miniature blockchains as needed, as it grows, as it scales. It's one of the cool things about the Avalanche architecture. And so each miniature blockchain is what they're referring to, or what they're calling a subnet. So you have the primary network, and then you have the subnets. And so I'm not sure if the subnets are these 3. So the main 3 are the C chain, the P chain, and the X chain. The C chain is is the chain that has all the smart contract transactions, and so that's where the bulk of the traffic is with Avalanche. And then there are just going to be multiple other subnets. And so I think this is really exciting news, both for the Avalanche blockchain and then, of course, for Defikingdoms. So Defikingdoms is coming out with their own subnet on Avalanche called the Defikingdoms blockchain, or the DFK blockchain. So to read their article, it says, Defikingdoms is proud to announce our own subnet, Defikingdoms blockchain, aka DFK chain. Partnering with Ava Labs, DFK chain will be the home of the previously announced Crystalvale expansion. Some people were asking if this was going to host all the expansions or all the realms, or if it was going to ultimately one day host even Serendale as well. I believe that this is only hosting Crystalvale. So Serendale is going to stay on Harmony. Ava Labs, Avalanche, Defikingdoms, they're all in collaboration to create a specific subnet on Avalanche that's dedicated to hosting Crystalvale. the realm expansion for DeFi Kingdoms. And I believe that's that. That's it. Article continues. It is our vision that DeFi Kingdoms blockchain will become a go-to location for community members and projects to launch GameFi and other blockchain gaming experiences in conjunction with our primary offering of DeFi Kingdoms, Crystalvale. We are pioneering this initial subnet offering with Ava Labs and plan to expand the blockchain metaverse with DeFi Kingdoms as the provider of such utility. So one of the things I also I had a tab open. So what is a subnet exactly? So we know it's a miniature blockchain. It sounds like, in a non-technical explanation, it's a way where we aren't going to get congested and in the mix with the C chain and all the other traffic that's happening on Avalanche, so we can kind of have this clear path to operate. But a subnet, so I'll read this, is a dynamic set of validators working together to achieve consensus on the state of a set of blockchains. Each blockchain is validated by exactly one subnet. A subnet can validate arbitrarily many blockchains, so on and so forth. And so DFK has come out saying that it's a little bit of it's like one of these, is it centralized or is it decentralized? So the way DFK is launching the DFK chain subnet is kind of with a centralized initiative in collaboration with Ava Labs, where you need a certain amount of AVAX to become a validator, to stake, and to host these subnets. And so there's a bit of funding that goes on with that. I don't know if you guys saw the message or not, but Frisky Fox basically said that in the future, one of the things is that even like with guilds and the community at large, that guilds will have a chance to run their own validator node and help be part of the subnet and help become part of the infrastructure of the game that they play themselves. So really interesting things with the technology front going on there. Anyone have some thoughts on any of that?
I don't have anything profound to say necessarily, but the DFK chain logo is fire. I love it.
Yeah, it looks really good, really clean. So speaking of the logo, so I had a couple tabs here. So that was another one of the things that Starlex, I think you noticed, was that DFK updated their logo. So they have pixelated it a little bit, give a little bit of that elbow shine. And then, this was just a screenshot from the upcoming hero classes that were going to be on Crystalvale. So I think we already knew that it was going to be 2 new basic classes. So that'll be 10 basic classes in total, and then 1 more advanced class that the 2 basic classes will be able to make. So three total, which then begs the question, when does the next elite class hero come? So then does the next class of elite heroes become super rare because you need an advanced hero from 2 different realms? That's a little speculation. But okay, so that was the DFK chain. Where am I? So why a subnet? Avalanche subnet technology provides a way for projects to section off a group of Avalanche validators and commission them to validate additional blockchains outside of Avalanche's primary 3 chains, the P chain, the X chain, the C chain. DeFi Kingdoms blockchain is an EVM-compatible blockchain that will be validated by our subnet and uses the proof of authority, proof of stake consensus algorithms developed by Ava Labs. DFK chain combined with Avalanche subnet infrastructure will unlock new potential for DeFi Kingdoms. So here's a big topic of discussion for the expansion is Joule as a gas token. And I've been trying to figure out how exactly bullish this is for, with Joule becoming a hyper deflationary token as more and more Joule gets unlocked into circulation. It being used as a gas token for the next realm is really, like, in a long-term perspective, I wonder what that's doing for the burn rate of Joule. Because, with Harmony, we went from, we had to 30x the gas to use 1, right? To kind of avoid some of the bot spamming and things that were happening with some of the RPC issues. And I think when you create your own subnet, you also can control the gas rate or the gas mechanism that's needed to operate on that subnet. So that's why I believe Joule is able to be used as the gas token, because they're kind of from the inception creating their own subnet and can control the mechanics of how the infrastructure is laid out. So I love the fact that Joule can be used as the gas token, but I think what we don't know is how much Joule and what the price of the gas will be. And I think they've talked about previously that some of the gameplay will not be exactly identical to Harmony because of gas-related issues. All the clicking is all these on-chain transactions. And if gas is a little bit more expensive on Avalanche, like it is, how to either mitigate that, or do they? I feel like they've tried really hard to not do some of the gameplay off chain. So keeping things on chain and keeping them at a cost affordable price is going to be interesting. And then using gas, Joule is the gas token, which kind of has a burn rate against a deflationary token, is super healthy, I think, for the long term, just price action of Joule. So, anyone have any thoughts on that? I mean, I love that.
I think it's actually just kind of interesting, just using it also like as a gas token. I'm not perfectly like well versed in like tokenomics and everything, but I guess I'm not necessarily sure what this is going to do for the price action because of like the burn fees that are going to happen like with the token, like from a long term perspective. Personally, I think that's good just because it's like it gives like I guess us more like a little bit control over like the token from I guess from like a player's perspective, if that makes any sense, because we can kind of control like what the coin does, if that makes any sense.
I mean, like in general, all this news and exciting things like that's it's one of those things. I think why the airdrop went so poorly because there was just so much unknown, right? And then they release all this information at once, and it's all these new exciting things. And like you said, the community bounced right back from it, and just gotta keep on believing sometimes.
And read this. So with Joule used as a gas fee, where will it go? So a portion will be given to the designated wallets of the validators. This allows us to attract more validators and further decentralize the chain. So a nice little passive income play if you have the funding for it. I think we did the math. It's like 140 at the current price. It's like $144,000 of AVAX is needed to set up the validator. So just a little bit of money in IT systems administration work, and you're in. A portion will be burnt. This will continuously increase the value of Joule by implementing a consistent burn mechanic and deflating the supply, like I was talking about a little bit earlier. And then a portion will be sent to the Quest Fund to reward our community and players. All about that Quest Fund and gardening. DFK Outposts. Starting with Avalanche, Defikingdoms will expand to have outposts on multiple chains that will include features to help make onboarding onto DFK seamless and easy for all players, or DFK chain. These will include integrated bridging and trading through a local DEX to make it easier to obtain the DFK chain gas token, Joule, and bridge it over without the need to leave Defikingdoms.com. The goal of Outposts are to reduce barriers of entry into Defikingdoms. Outposts will have the Fiat on-ramp integrated to help with the local chain gas fees, tutorials, and RPC switch to DFK chain for the first time. Certain chains will even get their own dedicated mini zone unique to their chain. So a lot of speculation as soon as Dreamer had mentioned the Fiat on-ramp. There was some conversation about whether, the Fiat on-ramps aren't as easy as it seems because a lot of that is like regulatory issues with banks and just getting that taken care of. But I guess there's a little, I don't know about this, so I might be speaking out of class here, but that there is some, maybe just through a debit card, you can circumvent some of the bank regulation. And if someone is able to just sign up or spend money with a debit card, there's some way that I think they're trying to facilitate that type of Fiat on-ramping. So, but that's kind of cool. So some of the bridging, some of these outposts, some of these kind of new innovations that are happening to kind of create this interoperability for the game going cross-chain. So subnet validators, we kind of crossed that already. RPC nodes, every chain has their own RPC nodes. Avalanche has RPC nodes as well. So still dealing with that.
I wonder if they're going to... Sorry, Beeks. I was going to say, I wonder if they're going to set up, like, with the whole play of doing their own subnet on Avalanche and stuff, these Fiat on-ramps, I'm wondering if it's going to look something like MoonPay, how you can, like, go and just put in your debit card and buy BNB or whatever and send it to a wallet.
Yep.
If it's either going to be something like MoonPay or if they're building out their own dedicated infrastructure like that, like you'd go to some place, put in your debit card, and immediately buy Joule.
Just to clarify, like you're essentially being like you're allowed to buy like the in-game token with your credit card, but it's still like considered on a decentralized exchange. I don't know. Am I like understanding that correctly?
It's at least with a debit card, not a credit card. So I believe it's just going to have to be with like cash on hand. So that's part of like the circumventing the bank thing. So you're not establishing any line of credit with a bank to do it. But yeah, I mean, I haven't messed around with enough on-ramping with tokens that are that kind of microcapped or something. So I haven't experienced the MoonPay system, but I'm aware of it, familiar with it. I know they exist, so I can only imagine they're trying to do some type of similar system like that. But
Yeah, I was just gonna say my like when I first got into crypto, that was rather than doing like a centralized exchange or whatever, my entry into crypto was just buying BNB straight from a debit card. And if that had been built into DeFi Kingdoms, you know, a friend like, hey, you got to play this game rather than having to figure out MetaMask and all that stuff just to be able to throw down a debit card and have enough money to buy a hero or whatever, that would completely change the game for tons of people.
1,000%, because it just make it. It's just making it easier, like for basic people to like understand like what DeFi is, or just get into the game in general. I think that's dope, actually.
all right, so we've hit the date of the launch, March 30th. We have the trailer, gone over the subnets, DFK chain, have the new Joule logo. We kind of went over the updated airdrop rewards and kind of the FUD that the community had. I gave my little spiel on really. Oh, so I should have said this. The touchback on the airdrops. You know, the one thing, the reason why I said the whole thing about the equipment, sorry, is that was, you know, when they said that they weren't we weren't going to know the rewards until after the airdrop. But the one thing they did have in language was certain things that could be included or would be included would be equipment. And so that was like the thing that everyone was driving for the PvP, was like, that would be the perfect thing to be like, well, here's like an updated look at some of the equipment that's going to come up for like when the PvP is ready. And that just would have been online with, I think, like what we were all expecting. And then it's like, focus only on Crystalvale. No equipment. No equipment in the snapshot. No equipment in the art department AMA. And it was just like, damn. And so that was even if they just were like, yeah, we're not airdropping equipment right now, but here's what it's going to look like, and here's what we're going to give you. It's like that. I think that could have been enough of a buffer to be like, oh, okay, that's dope. But anyways, just to finalize that thought. The Crystalvale launch, yeah, the announcement the day after, the Perilous Journey, the Fiat on-ramp. The last thing I have to go over, we can go over some of the ice gardens. This was some of the new documentation for the Crystalvale. So they gave the emission schedule for the crystal, which is super exciting. There is going to be no block time schedule, so it's only going by each, what is it, epoch or epic? I think it's epoch. At least I'm calling it an epoch. But each epoch is exactly 1 week long, so it's not going on like the 2-second finality block speed, which is variable at times. So this will just be week in, week out, down the line, and so on and so forth. Oh, I just had this tweet open because if any of you follow Hans, I believe he sent all of his heroes, which is crazy. So he sent 254 heroes. That's the most amount of heroes I've seen anyone sent. I know some of the whales had sent like 100 or half of what they had, but to send all 254. But anyway, so the last thing I had, oh, do I not have the picture here? Oh, I think it's down here. Here you go. So the last thing I had to say, so, you know, one of the things, you know, they say the center of the Crystalvale map, and I haven't heard anyone say this yet, but, you know, the center, you know, Loudon center of Serendale is the marketplace. I mean, so much so that we're seeing every GameFi project basically copy that. That game map almost seems to be so ubiquitous already that it's like, well, of course we're going to follow like the system like that of like the marketplace. It naturally makes sense that it's the center of any kind of game map. So for them to say that the center of the Crystalvale map is this tree, so is there not going to be a marketplace in Crystalvale? Or, I mean, is it not going to be at the center of Crystalvale? I don't know if anyone's done any speculation on that, but ever since they launched that picture and were like, you know, they say it really follows the lore. This is the center of the Crystalvale. So I thought that was really kind of peculiar to think about.
Well, in Serendale, the castle, like that's what I equated the tree to, was the castle in Serendale, right? And then you've got the markets and all that other little towny stuff down in front of it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they live in a tree instead of a castle.
It's like elves and dwarves, all that live in a tree.
Keebler elves.
Yeah, the Keebler elves. All right. I'm following the lore. You know, lore is such a funny thing. It's, I don't know. I don't even want to say it, but it's like so much of this is like, you know, it's like gamified finance And so to try and like, have this spine of lore always seems a little trivial. But I was also noticing some of these like little squiggles on the stones that look very kind of like meditation circle, spiritual stones. So I don't know if to read into that enough or not. But yeah, a lot of lore. Some of the new pictures for Crystalvale. Maybe this is inside the tree then, huh? Is this the tree? Are these like the leaves at the top here? Dwarves in Crystalvale work closely with the citizens of Crystalvale. So citizens, that's kind of like a new thing that they've mentioned before. That may be some like NPC characters that aren't heroes. So we might see some more of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, you said something earlier. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, the Fiat on ramping. Yeah, I mean that's really big, man. Like I know that we already said that, but it's huge because it's one of the largest roadblocks right into the game. It opens it up for so many more people to you know make that decision to jump in and get hooked on the game. If they can figure out how to do that, make that work right, that's big.
Yeah, I mean, there's this big question of how do you get more players or more investors? What's the best strategy to tackle that adoption? And you can look at the fiat on ramp as an easier way to deploy money, no doubt. But if there isn't gameplay, are we able to attract the gamers even with a fiat on ramp? I just wonder if fiat on ramping is like a better way to get more money from existing players, or is it really a new way to get new players? I mean, no doubt it's an easier way to deploy money. You don't have to go through the hoops and 7-day withdrawal wait for Binance or whatever the way you have to do it with. So that's amazing to be able to like sell, buy on ramp like that. But is it getting new players exactly?
I would say probably not. Just like that's actually a good point because you're not. I guess like you're not really bringing anybody into like an actual game yet because there's no PVE yet. There's no actual other than just like questing. I don't really know if that would like bring in more players just doing a fiat on ramp. I think it would like bring in some new players, but would they stay is like I guess like a immediate question that would come up.
One thing I've always found is that people are lazy. And so anytime you can minimize the amount of effort someone has to put forth in order to do something, it's going to make it it's going to make it more likely that they do that thing. I'm actually helping one of my friends get onboarded, but we spent like 3 or 4 hours one night just going through like setting up Coinbase and then KuCoin or discussing if we're going to use crypto.com to buy the fiat. And then I had to start to explain MetaMask, and then he had to go, like in that, if in that 3 hours we weren't even able to manage to get him into DFK, and he wanted to put money in. Now it's only a couple $100, but still, you get a couple $100 people 10,000 times. I mean, that's big money. So
I would argue
think
that's the price point we want that many players in, right? I mean, we're not looking for, it's like you get less players with $1,000 and you have more players with a couple $100. And so if you can get it easier for the players with a couple $100 in that scenario, you're going to get a better outcome. So yeah, I think that's exactly the testimony they're trying to go, fight against, right?
Yeah. And honestly, like the people with a lot more money, they're going to do their research and they're going to be sure that it's something that they want to do because they're going to see how much effort they have to put into it. But you can get people like that's why whenever you're at the store, they have the candy and all that crap right there by the checkout. So that way you have those impulse buys, right? Somebody sees a video on YouTube or sees an article on Twitter or Medium or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, DFK is really cool," and then they go check it out, and it's like, "Oh, I got to do all this other crap. Never mind." Right? But if you can help facilitate that impulse buy situation, because humans are impulsive, you're going to get a lot of those folks, right? They're like, throw in $50, or whatever.
That's the other part of it too, Doso, is like someone who is skeptical or whatever. If you're like, all it takes is a debit card and then $100, and you can you don't even have to play the game, but you can put that $100 into a garden that has 250% APR for someone who has only been exposed to the, like, traditional bank APRs. I feel like that's a game changer too, because you're not just talking about 200 bucks to play a game. You're also talking about just exposing people to the very idea of DeFi and yield farming and some of these things, and just say, like, listen, it's easy, get in there and see for yourself that we're not talking about single digit APRs. We're talking about these insane returns, and all you have to do is take 30 minutes and a debit card and get set up to get set up.
So before I wrap things up, I guess last thing I wanted to say, because I saw it here, had highlighted. Since we touched on it last week, just we can conclude it here for this week with the DFK Arena and the grant proposals. So they've kind of put a little bit of a hiatus on it for now because of so much, just community engagement and making sure the system of checks and balances of getting things right for the team is going to be. So Dreamer said that there was an announcement last week for all those that participated in the review of the first proposed grant in the AMA in the middle of the week. There was a lot of helpful comments, and rather than unnecessarily rush the vote, we've paused, and Sunbear is working hard on that whole process. I think it was a great start, but we will try to add onto it a more standardized process. So just really interesting to see where we are. A lot is happening, a lot of moving parts right now. So yeah, that's why I wanted to do the recap. It was more of a, like I was kind of joking, more of a little bit of a state of the union, just kind of where the community, where the project is. It's hard to, every day is a new day. There's new stuff happening. So it wasn't so much on the AMA recap, but kind of everything that kind of followed the AMA with the snapshots and the Crystalvale launch and the perilous journey to finally happening, and a lot happening. So if anyone has any last thoughts before we close up. I also see Beware. Did you want to say what's up, man? Congratulations on the new director of the Guild Leaks.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for that. Happy to be in this position. Hoping we can get a few more people that want to join the leagues. We have quite a few that have already joined, but if we can get some more people in some of the leagues that not too many people have joined in. We have a lot of writers right now, but we definitely need some more developers, maybe some media people, artists. I thought we had quite a good turnout whenever we did some of the art contests. But we haven't had too many artists come to me saying they wanted to get in the league. So if you guys know anybody that wants to join the leagues, just have them DM me and I'll get them in there. Hopefully soon, once we get enough people in the leagues, then I'll go ahead and appoint some officers. We're going to use those officers to keep the chats in order, make sure that they stay on topic, but also if, the council comes up with any ideas where we need to get some information out, whether it is, writing an article or streaming something on YouTube or on Discord or getting a project going. Those officers can kind of take point on those jobs, and then basically report back to me, let me know what you guys are going to be doing, and we'll present it to the council after that and go from there.
Cool.
So about the leagues, basically TLDR, right? Like they're essentially the groups that are going to be working on or would be highly likely to be working on future projects for the guild, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, but like if we have we've got a lot of projects with the guild. I mean, if you haven't looked at like the roadmap, we've got that roadmap with all these different projects, and the purpose of this league is so that way, anytime we have those big projects, we can more easily identify people to participate, and of course there are rewards and such associated with doing that, or participating in these things. So highly recommend if you've got those skills, man. Get in those leagues because you're going to be the first people to kind of get the pick at participating in these projects.
Yes, absolutely. Like Doso just mentioned, you know, this guild, we're trying to build it up into something. And in order for us to get our name out there, you know, we're going to have projects for writers, you know, for videos, all kinds of things to be able to get our name out there for different projects that we are trying to accomplish to grow the guild. And I mean, as you know, if you were in early on DeFi Kingdoms, those guys are the ones that got all the jewels. So kind of the same thing here. We're at the ground level here. If you're able to get into one of these leagues and participate with the guild, you will get rewards in the future to, you know, to get you other things within the guild, like the PFPs and land and all of these things that the guild is gonna provide in the future. So even if you don't feel like you're going to be a big contribution. I mean, don't think that way because you may be able to give some information to other guys that, you know, that are possibly doing a project or, you know, you might want to learn about some stuff. If you want to become a developer, you know, join the developers league and try to learn some stuff from some people that do know what they're doing in that portion. So don't be afraid to join, even if you don't think you have anything to provide. We definitely want you in somewhere if you want to be there.
Well, I think that's the perfect way to wrap up. Had some news of the week and some guild business. And other than that, everyone have a fantastic Wednesday or Thursday, depending on where you are in the world.
For you and me, living out our dreams, we're all right where we should be. Lift my arms out wide.